In terms of engaging with the community and diversity, how was your experience when you started to engage with the Drupal community? Because it sounds like that you weren't a silent user for too long.
No, I wasn't silent for too long. A couple of years. I mean, it was definitely. You can see all the comments and whatnot on Drupal.org because that's again, it's all kept in perpetuity. So there's lots of if people are curious, you can find that out. But I definitely became more active, essentially when I realized that there was an opportunity for Drupal to become more accessible, and that would help me and my business be able to sell to the government of Canada, and so I went up to Angie Byron, who was she's known as Web Chick. She's in our community quite famous, but also in terms of women in tech. She's played a really influential role in trying to shape how things are organized. But Angie was I went up to her and said, "Hey, there's a bug here, and we should fix that." And she said, "Yes, you should. Go file an issue, make it happen." And it's like, oh, right. And I did. But then it started to become like addictive because I started to find other bugs and then learn more about the process. And I didn't come with I had a much like my journey with open source, my accessibility journey, I'd already had a grounding in the philosophy because I had friends who had disability who had schooled me in in disability rights. So I understood why it was important. That wasn't the mystery. It was like, well, how do I make this applicable to me, and how do I find the time and the space to be able to make this a priority for me to implement when I'm trying to set up a small business and be able to onboard clients and all of that stuff. So, but it was quite interesting to be able to make that jump and be able to then start learning about how I can start influencing a large open source project that has millions of websites around the world that use it, and billions of sites that are pages that are loaded every day running Drupal. So, if not trillions of pages.
Were the bugs and those issues that you found from the get-go around accessibility issues?
The ones that I was talking with were accessibility issues. There were other things that I had wanted to fix around internationalization earlier on, but that was something that I more sort of tossed some ideas and some issues into the issue queue and didn't follow up with it. But when I started to take on the responsibility of trying to fix this issue, that's when it got real. And I was like, okay, well, what is the process of actually changing somebody else's code? I know what it's like on my own code. If I'm the maintainer, I know how I can fix that. But if I have to sort of deal with hundreds, if not thousands, of other people who are engaging with this community, how do I influence that so that the things I care about are the things that are brought into the core of the project?
Since we started to talk about accessibility, can you define what accessibility is in the web context and the web development context?
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially the ability for somebody not to face barriers if they have vision issues, mobility issues, cognitive issues, like sensory issues. There's a lot of things that we don't even think about as people who don't identify as having a disability. But it's those barriers, and frankly, there's a lot of us who have disabilities that don't necessarily think about them, like, I take off my glasses and it's harder to read the text. I'm sure it's the same with you as well. That's a kind of disability. If I break my glasses, then what happens? I have allergies, and so there's the idea of permanent, temporary, and situational disabilities. Like, I have allergies, so when the pollen's out, my eyes are watery. Like, it's harder for me to see the screen. Again, that's a situational disability that affects all sorts of people. That's a temporary disability based on just what's in the air around us that we have no control over. Situational disabilities are also incredibly common. How many of us go outside and try and access an address or read some information on our phone on a day where there's just a lot of whether it's a cloudy day or a sunny day, you're trying to read the phone, but there's not enough contrast on the phone for you to go off and to see it. It's like, well, that's just people building for a situation that's not the real world. Like, nobody is going to go off and only access a website in 2026 only on their device in a light controlled environment. Like people are using it all over the places, whether it's in a coffee shop or whether it's in a so it's trying to just build for real life and for real people. Even like just looking at the two of us, like either of us could have a more serious disability tomorrow. Like our vision, we have it today, it might go away tomorrow. We can't know that we all take for granted that we'll be able to have the same abilities one day to the next, because generally that's the case. But that's not the human experience. The human experience is that as we grow older, our abilities degrade over time, and we don't want to admit that because I think we're afraid of mortality. But like it's a real concern when you're trying to when you have a society that's built around denying the fact that we have disabilities as humanity, that it's inherently human to have disabilities. We there's all kinds of models around how do you just define and describe disability, and the most common one that people think about is the medical model. Like, does the doctor say you're blind? Does do you have a medical condition that would stop you from doing this? Like, that's sort of one model. The other model is the social model. Is like, why did we not think about the fact that people are trying to we've inserted these barriers by just only building for one particular use type, and so it's that we've created these barriers in our society.
It's very interesting, like the way how you describe it. Like, for example, I think I messed up some configuration on my phone or something because it stopped adjusting the contrast that you were talking about. So I have to do it manually very often. The funny thing is that I am annoyed, obviously, but I didn't really think about this as an accessibility issue. I was just thinking that this is really annoying.